It's 1:30 in the morning on Wednesday, October 29th, but this game started on the 28th. The Montreal Canadiens and the Seattle Kraken at Climate Pledge Arena. Sounds like something you clean. At the end of the day, the Canadiens did clean up, coming away with another 4-3 OT win over the Seattle Kraken, ending their Western road trip and coming home for Saturday's tilt against the Senators. There's a lot to discuss. Let's talk some puck. Hey gang, good morning wherever you might be. Welcome to another edition of the Post-Game Show here on PuckTalk Montreal. I'm Costa Papoulias. And yes, the Montreal Canadiens come away with a 4-3 overtime win over the Seattle Kraken. And they're lucky to do so. They had a 3-0 lead in the third period. And lo and behold, everything fell apart in the last few minutes. So let's get to the highlights. And those, of course, are brought to you by InstaCustoms. InstaCustoms.com is Canada's highest rated print shop with over 3,000 Google reviews and a 4.9 star rating. They offer direct-to-garment printing on all your favorite clothing, along with coffee and travel mugs, and they even offer embroidery. Habs won a Stanley Cup? You can win too on Stanley Street at InstaCustoms.com. So it looked like everything was fine and dandy for the Montreal Canadiens. About midway through the first period, who else but Cole Caufield opens up the scoring? Nifty little passing play here between Dobson down to Suzuki, and then in front, Cole Caufield with a wide open cage. Another great play along the boards by Dobson. Gets the backhand to Suzuki. Suzuki just turns, finds Caufield, and it's 1-0 Montreal. And that's, perfect as far as the start's concerned on the road for the Montreal Canadiens. Get the Kraken on their heels. Then they extend their lead. At 17:28 of the first on the power play, it's Juraj Slafkovsky. And let me tell you, the passing on this power play goal, magnifique. Watch it as it goes from Suzuki, Caufield, Slafkovsky, back of the net. Perfect transition from the exterior to the bumper, and Slafkovsky puts it home to make it 2-0 for the Bleu Blanc Rouge. It stayed that way through the second period. The second, by the way, this time around was the best second period the Montreal Canadiens played. They really limited what the Kraken could do, and they also limited the mistakes they made on their line changes, which led to a much better period for Montreal. Then, going into the third, the Canadiens extend their lead. At 5:55 of the third period, it was Alex Newhook's turn to get in on the scoring as Kirby Dach feeds a pass off a skate right to Newhook, and he blasts it home. Here it is again from the point. Bing, bang, boom. And the Canadiens have a 3-0 lead. And everything looks like it's going absolutely fine. Jakub Dobes, being Jakub Dobes, playing extremely well to this point of the hockey game. Then at 8:57, guess who woke up? Noted Hab killer Brandon Montour. He ended up with 3 points on the game, by the way, in on all 3 goals for the Kraken. But here you go, pass to the point, Clapper scores. A lot of traffic in front. Not much that Dobes could do. He couldn't see anything because Carrier was providing such a wonderful screen. Remember that name because it's going to come up again. Same type of circumstance. Then at 15:17, the man we love to hate, Shane Wright, scores to make it 3-2. And all of a sudden, we're starting to bite our nails in Habs land. Here's the goal. A little bit of a broken play. Puck comes in front. Bang, scores. Tic-tac-toe. Not much that Dobes could do there as he was scrambling to get back in place. Couldn't get square. And so it's 3-2. Then the Kraken pull their goaltender. And with a minute 43 left, Brandon Montour claps another one, putting it home and tying the game at 3. Watch the front of the net. Montour's at the point. He gets the feed. Bomb. Scores. What's the problem? The puck goes in off a Carrier again. And, it looks there like it didn't hit him, but it did. It actually just barely grazed him. But here's the thing. If you're going to block a shot, block the shot. Don't turn away. Don't pretend. Don't stand there. Get out of the way. Let your goaltender see the puck. If Dobes would have seen that puck, maybe he would have had a chance to stop it. But that wasn't the case. So what happens? Well, they go to overtime. And guess who scores in overtime? It's his 11th career overtime winner. Yes, you guessed it. Number 13, Cole Caufield, the hero in this hockey game. Look at the dangle. Okay, the cord was going to go across. He gets in there, gets a stick in between his legs, and puts it home. Here it is again. Watch. Inside out, tick-tack, whoop. Got it in behind, and then jams it home. Overtime winner, Montreal on a plane, leaving as they steal another point from the Kraken. So they win the season series. It's only 2 games with the Western team, and the Canadiens come home once again at the top of the Atlantic Division. Now let's get into the game analysis. And that, of course, is brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. Cheapesttshirts.ca has men's, women's, and children's t-shirts, all sizes, hoodies too, with over 1,000 products to choose from. Anything you need for merchandise or the best deals on everyday clothing, cheapesttshirts.ca is your go-to source. Buy today, ship tomorrow, cheapesttshirts.ca. So what is there to analyze in this hockey game? Well, there's a few things that you look at. Number one, I don't know what the Canadiens can do to stop Brandon Montour. You can call him a Habs killer. Call him Jeff Skinner 2.0. That man just tends to score big goals against the Montreal Canadiens. Comes away with 2 goals and an assist tonight for a defenseman, none too shabby. And he gets the Kraken back into the hockey game. Then you take a look at the Canadiens game as a whole, right? And overall, they kept the Kraken under control. A little bit of penalty trouble. Canadiens get behind the 8 ball. A little bit of 4-on-4. Extra man, whatever the case is. And lo and behold, we have a tie hockey game. It's the tail end of a trip. And you know the guys are gassed, even if they didn't play since Saturday. It's a trip. They had the rookie dinner. So there's another excuse to be fatigued and maybe a little hungover. But at the end of it all, what happened? Well, the Montreal Canadiens do come away with another 2 points. But look at the game from the perspective of production. Can't say anything about the first line. We're going to take Suzuki, Caufield, and Slafkovsky right out of the equation. They were great in this hockey game. Mike Matheson, once again, very good, as was Elaine Hudson. You take a look at Kirby Dach, and you got to sit there and say to yourself, you know what, he's starting to look better and better as he goes along. He made a play in the second period, cutting across the net front to try to jam a puck past the cord, and it was like the Kirby Dach we saw in his rookie year in Chicago. Cut across, real tight, got the move in, tried to jam the puck in, the cord making a save, and he got an assist on Newhook's goal. So it's starting to look like Kirby Dach is starting to trust his body again. And I think the biggest part of Kirby Dach actually being comfortable is that he's not being overly dependent on to produce, right? At the end of the day, when you take a look at Kirby Dach, you know, you've got Kapanen, Newhook, and Demidov playing together, right? And so those guys themselves are the quasi-second line for the Montreal Canadiens. It's not the Dach line. Dach, Bolduc, and Veleno are essentially the third line for the Montreal Canadiens. So there's a little bit less pressure to score. And I think Kirby Dach, beyond that, is much more comfortable on the wing as opposed to having the responsibilities at center. As for Veleno, played another good hockey game. Good in the faceoff dot. The Canadiens for the night were 61.2%, a lot better than what was happening in Vancouver the other day. But Veleno's doing what he's asked to do. He's filling in. He's finding his game. Still fumbling the puck a little bit, but I think as time goes on and he becomes more comfortable, then, you know, he won't be gripping his stick as tight. As for Bolduc, he's kind of tailed off a little bit. And the thing about Bolduc is he's not doing anything wrong, right? He's playing well. He's trying to do his best out there. He's been taking off the first wave of the power play, and I think that was something that he was told. They were going to give you the first wave until Ivan Demidov is ready to go. I don't think Bolduc would have had a problem with that, right, if he was told ahead of time. And I believe he was. So right now, he's stuck at 4 goals. He'll get past that. It's just a matter of time. You know, those guys just got together, all 3 of them, right? With Dach, Veleno, and Bolduc. They're going to get comfortable in their own skin. If I were Marty St. Louis, I'd think about maybe switching sides, putting Bolduc on the right wing and putting Dach on the left wing. because the angle they shoot at is a little bit better, and it'll give them more opportunities, and it'll open up one-timers for both guys. But we'll see what the coach thinks. But overall, I've liked that line. Tonight, I got to say that Anderson, Gallagher, and Evans were really good for the Canadiens, especially against Jordan Eberle's line. And overall, the Canadiens didn't play a bad hockey game. They had some defensive lapses. They had some brain farts. And it starts with Alex Carrier. Carrier has been very good so far this season. There's no doubt about that. But as I mentioned before, if you're going to be in front of your net and you're going to get out there and block a shot, either block it or get out of the way. I can't tell you how many times goaltenders told me, and I told my own defenseman, move because I want to see the puck. I don't want to see your ass, right? Because if I see your ass, I don't see where the puck, and I'll see it at the last second, and it more likely than not will beat me. But that is what happened on both goals scored by Montour. They were from distance. There was somebody in front of the net, and Carrier decided he wanted to try to block the puck and couldn't. Well, that's not how it works as far as defenseman is concerned. If you're going to do it, right? That's what you've heard from Marty St. Louis. You encourage people to block shots, and if you're going to block a shot, block the damn thing. Don't go through the motions and pretend you're going to block it. Because both those goals that scored by Montour are no fault of Dobes's. Can't stop what you can't see. And Dobes had a good night. Despite the fact that he allowed 3 goals, he had a good night. But, as most people have been saying, and I agree, it's time to give Montembeault the net back, and let's see him on Saturday. He's been working hard, trying to fine-tune his game. And some of you may have seen in tonight's hockey game, I forget who the shot was by. I believe it was Beniers that took a slap shot on Jakub Dobes, and Dobes was out beyond his crease, limiting the space, making a kick save, and doing what needed to be done to stop the puck. Those are all the things we want to see from Sam Montembeault. We saw more than once Jakub Dobes cut cross-crease passes off with his stick, cut passes out from behind the net with his paddle down, forcing the puck back to the corner. These are all little things that you don't really see or think about on a day-to-day basis. But when you're a goaltender, they're tools in your belt. And those are tools that Montembeault has not been using. He's got to get back to it. They're essential to being a goaltender in any league. It doesn't matter if it's the NHL or anywhere else. You need to use your paddle, you need to use your stick, and you need to make sure you get out far enough to cut down the angle on shots from distance. I'm not talking about Patrick Watt down at the bottom of the circle to try to take away a shot. I'm talking about top of the crease, in good position, square to the shooter. This way you can get back for a potential rebound if necessary. Let's see what Montembeault brings on Saturday, but we'll talk about that as the week progresses. There are a couple of other things, though, now that we've analyzed this hockey game. There's not much more to talk about because the power play is clicking on all cylinders for the Montreal Canadiens. The penalty kill looked good up until the Montour power play goal. But, you know, the Kraken were only 1 for 4 on the power play. But when you take a look at some things that were going on as far as the Canadiens are concerned and some things that are being said, there has to be something talked about. And one thing I need to discuss that came up in the comments, I'm not going to say from who. You can look at the comments from last show if you want. But it was about Marty St. Louis and the thought that he has no grit and no leadership skills. Well, I've had the privilege of meeting Marty a couple of times. In fact, I have his phone number on my cell phone. And, you know, I got to say that it's not about lack of leadership from Marty St. Louis, and I don't see where you guys see that. Or lack of grit. You're talking about a guy who was told no at every level because he was too small and still managed to make it to the dance and get into the Hall of Fame and win a Stanley Cup. You don't get there without grit, you know? When you're celebrating with a Stanley Cup while getting stitches on the trainer's table in the back, that's the definition of grit. So I don't know where anybody gets the idea that he doesn't have grit or that, you know, he lacks the leadership abilities. If there's one thing that leaders do, it's they communicate. And who's better than at communicating than Marty St. Louis with his players? The guys adore him, okay? From 1 to 21. They all adore him, okay? And the reason they do is because there's no gray area with Marty. He's going to walk up to you, he's going to tell you what he thinks, and he's going to move on. And if you don't do it, he's going to repeat it and he's going to remind you and he's going to show you on video. But there's no gray. Much like a lot of coaches leave you guessing. I remember back when Jacques Martin was with the Montreal Canadiens, nobody knew what Martin was thinking because he wouldn't communicate effectively with his players. Not every coach can. Not every coach has that outgoing personality. Marty has that outgoing personality. So, don't turn around and say that he lacks leadership and he doesn't have grit. That's the furthest thing from the truth. Seeing as how I've met him, you can kind of get that vibe from him. You look at him, his legs are like tree trunks. Yeah, he's not a tough guy. Not at all. Like if he doesn't have grit, then I'd like to see you as an individual run the stairs at the Bell Center. I sure as hell can't do it anymore. I used to do most in stadium, but I can't. There's no way now. For me, anyway. I'm way too out of shape. So let's stop talking about the coach because the coach is not the problem here. The team is 8-3, everybody. They have 16 points on the season. Go back and take a look and say to yourself, when was the last time the Canadiens came out of October with 16 points in the bank? Not too often. How many times have the Montreal Canadiens come out of October in the last few years with a 500 record? Not too often. Well, they have one right now. And how often have the Montreal Canadiens led the Atlantic Division? Not too often. That's where they are now. So for all the people that want to be out there and say, oh, the coach is doing a lousy job, he doesn't know what he's doing, he doesn't know anything about Montour, I think he's doing just fine. He's riding his hot hand. His hot hand is starting to get fatigued because he's played too much. Go back to your starter, your number one, and move forward from there. And stop criticizing the guy who's currently got your favorite team number one in the Atlantic Division. Just stop. Because there's no traction to that argument. Another thing we got to talk about when we look at the Montreal Canadiens and what happened tonight is the fact that Juraj Slafkovsky has absolutely emerged as one of the premier power forwards in the league. Okay? And the thing about Slafkovsky emerging is it doesn't look good on guys like Zach Bolduc because Bolduc, after all, was supposed to take a lot of that space away from Slav, right? Everybody thought that Bolduc was going to be the net front presence on the first wave of the power play. That's not what's happening. Instead, you've got Slafkovsky given a second chance to keep that spot because it was his last year, and he's just absolutely passing with flying colors. Not losing board battles like he did last year. Releasing shots when he needs to. Making good passes as opposed to extremely poor cross-ice passes like he was making last year. He's fine-tuned his game. He's worked hard on what he needs to do. So I cannot, for the life of me, understand some people that think that Zach Bolduc needs to get more ice time. In fact, I think his ice time is okay, and we're still looking to see why Demidov isn't getting more ice time. That second line of Newhook, Kapanen, and Demidov can be lethal at 5-on-5. Demidov needs to shoot a little bit more, but it can be lethal. So why are we looking at Bolduc? Because Bolduc is going to be fine. He's going to score 20, 25 goals this year, I have no doubt. But you want to get that young line going. You've already got Kapanen with 5, right? You've got Alex Newhook, who's scoring at a better clip than he did last year. And you've got Demidov, who's not shooting the puck enough, but can put it in the net, given the fact that his shot is lethal as well. So when you have that type of triple threat, why are you looking at putting in a line that has Joe Veleno on it or Kirby Dach? I mean, listen, I want those guys to do extremely well. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Joe Veleno resurrect his career. I want to see Kirby Dach prove the naysayers wrong. But in limited minutes. I don't want to see limited minutes for the Canadiens' 5th overall draft pick a couple of years ago in Demidov. I don't want to see that. Oliver Kapanen tore it up in the Swedish league, and he's doing well now. I don't want to see his time limited either. So Marty's got to do a little bit of a better job managing those minutes. And sometimes when you get power plays and penalty kills, those situations are hard to manage. As a former coach myself, I can tell you sometimes you get mixed up. It happens. You're human. You're not a robot. But you need to be mindful of it because if it happens too often, then not only does your team suffer, but then your players start to get frustrated. We'll see what happens as we move forward. So let's take a look at what happens tomorrow, or today, I should say. Let's be happy with the fact that the Montreal Canadiens are sitting atop the Atlantic Division. And for once in our lives, we've spent the better part of 20 years basking in the negativity that was the Montreal Canadiens. Over a decade of futility under the management of Marc Bergevin. And previous to that, not too much success either. But we've got success now. 3 years into what is supposed to be a 5 or 6 year rebuild, we're starting to look like a contender. The Canadiens are considered amongst the best teams in the National Hockey League. So stop with all the negativity. Stop with the Canadiens need to do this. Stop with the Canadiens need to do that. The Canadiens are 8-3. You know what they need to do? Keep winning, because they are. Above and beyond that, let's think about bad things when bad things happen. If the Canadiens lose, if they get beat, if the Ottawa Senators come in and beat the living crap out of Montreal on Saturday and manage to come away with a win, we'll look at it then and criticize what the Canadiens did or didn't do. But until such time as the Canadiens shit the bed, I'm really happy with what's going on in Montreal right now. They have a goaltender that's allowing Sam Montour to work on his game without the pressure of needing to get back in nets right away. That's a commodity that not too many teams have. And very much like Swayman and Ullmark, you've got two goaltenders that can absolutely carry the load. That's a good thing to know when you're a coach. So stop. Enjoy the moment. Smell the roses and know that your Montreal Canadiens are in first place. Will they stay there? If they keep playing the way they are, I don't see why not. Put it in the comments and let me know what you think. Right? Do the Montreal Canadiens need to change things up? Do you want Bolduc to take over on the second wave of the power play? Do you want Bolduc to move up in the lineup? Or do you want to leave things status quo because the Canadiens are winning? Me, status quo, other than the goalie change, is the best. Give Dobes a break. He's done his part. Let Sam Montour get his net back. Let's see what he brings to the table. Everybody deserves second chances, especially Montour, given what he's been able to do over the past couple of years for this team. So let's go. All right? Take it easy, folks. Go get some sleep. And go Habs go.